Hey everybody, and welcome to episode number 33 of The Kickabout with me, Chris, and as always, Dan and Fran are with us.
Hi.
No show last week because Baby finally made an appearance, and Baby is currently in my arms waiting for Mummy for feed. So I do apologise if you hear a little bit of whinging and moaning. Hopefully it won't be for very long. But these are the lockdown times we live in where we can't really do anything or go anywhere else. So not a great deal of choice, but hopefully everything will be okay. So what's happened, guys? So let's have a quick chat about England. I didn't actually put it in the running order. I was meant to. Let's just have a very quick chat about England. Dan, what did you think of the three games? Just summarise your feelings on the three games. Who played well? Who impressed you? Who didn't? That sort of thing.
3 wins out of 3 isn't really bad, so I can't be negative at all about that.
Weren't the best games, though, were they?
No, the problem I find with England, I just feel like it's quite negative. It's very side to side.
But it's stupid, though, because we have such good players.
Well, we have probably one of the best attacking sort of nationalities, I reckon, with the players we've got. I'd like to see us sort of attack more. I feel like we're too
timid,
patient.
Yeah, I think I messaged you this, Dan. I get the feeling that we've had various teams within the last 20 years where the fans and the media have maybe overhyped us a little bit and suggested that we have to win something with this generation. We can't waste the talent that's in front of us. And I just got this horrible feeling that with all the talent that we've got in this side, we're going to come up short again. So are we just lacking talent against the real big boys, or is it mismanagement? Is it tactics? What do you think it is that's stopping us from taking that step to being a real top side on the international stage?
Well, I mean, the manager was a centre-back, wasn't he? So that probably doesn't help, because I think every manager sort of has their own philosophies, and I just feel like we play very defensive. He concentrates on the defence a lot, which is great, but in my opinion, we come against Poland. I feel like Poland, without Lewandowski, Poland weren't really anything, and they very nearly got a result out of us.
I mean, they conceded 3 against Hungary, even with Lewandowski. So I wouldn't have said that, we should have drastically altered anything anyway. At the end of the day, we are supposedly one of the best sides in the world. We've got, as you say, we've got an amazing array of attacking talent. We should be taking the teams to us. We should be forcing other teams to change their tactics to play against us. Now, that will happen, obviously, when you're playing the lower teams, people like San Marino and Albania. But when you're facing people like Poland and the bigger teams, you kind of want them to be fearing of us, not the other way around.
Yeah, and if we sort of do go through our group, we end up with the so-called group of death in the knockout stage, which is either France, Portugal, or Germany. And I just can't see us beating any of those 3.
Well, with the Euros, you're always going to face a big team, aren't you, quickly? So it's going to happen one way or the other, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be all negative. I'm looking forward to it. I am looking forward to the Euros, mainly just because we've been in lockdown for so long, and I just want to go out and watch the football. But I'm not that confident.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you mean. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. Right, let's get into the meat of the podcast then. And as always, we'll start with this. Dan the Stat Man.
So I've actually got 2 questions today. It's sort of two questions rolled into one into 2. The first one is, only one other player has scored more Premier League own goals than Phil Jagielka. Can you tell me who it is? And the second question is also about Jagielka. He is the second oldest outfield player to score an own goal in the competition. But can you tell me who the oldest player is?
Okay. Doubling down on Phil Jagielka. It's not been a good weekend for Phil Jagielka, is it? Okay, well, as always, we will get the answer to that towards the end of the show. Let's get into the show. So we decided this week to go with, there was some fairly significant action near the bottom end of the table. So we decided this week to focus on that. So we'll start with the Newcastle Spurs game. And it was a well-deserved point for Newcastle in what was a totally different Newcastle side to that we saw against Brighton just before the international break. I mean, it was such a limp awful performance from Newcastle. So for them to turn up, there are just some signs of fight and life in this team, aren't there?
Yeah, they're sort of scraping through it, aren't they?
Where are they now in the table?
They're still just one place above relegation. I think if Fulham had won, they would have knocked Newcastle into the relegation zone, but they couldn't do it against Villa, so they got quite lucky.
Yeah, so there's currently 3 points between Newcastle and Fulham have played a game extra, but Newcastle's game in hand is against Liverpool. So Liverpool obviously had a much improved performance the weekend and looked a lot better against Arsenal. So who knows what's going to happen with that? But yeah, I just wondered, do you think this is a flash in the pan for Newcastle, this performance? Is this just a bit like they did against Everton not that long ago, where they put in a really good performance? Do we think that they're just going to revert to type in the coming weeks?
Yeah, I think that's been the problem with Newcastle. They've just been really inconsistent because they do have the quality to sort of get these results. They're just so inconsistent, and obviously they've been missing key players like Callum Wilson. So I mean, I think is he back or he's coming back for the next game?
Yeah, I believe he's back in training now, from what I understand. Obviously, the other big positive from this game was that St. Maximin made his playing return. He came off the bench at the weekend as well. So everybody knows those two players, along with Almiron, those three are vital to Newcastle's chances, so they cannot afford to have any of those guys injured between now and the end of the season. But one guy who, would be great news for Newcastle fans, that Joelinton, he's in such a rich vein of form now with his second goal in 24 games this season. And, if you look at his record, it's quite astonishing, actually, because he's got 2 goals from 6 shots against Tottenham, right, in the Premier League. That's a 33% conversion rate. And if you then combine every other Premier League team that he's played against, he's had 77 shots and scored 2 goals, a 2.6 shot conversion rate. So if Newcastle could just play Spurs every week, they'd be laughing. Joelinton would be the top scorer.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad stats for a centre-back.
But I mean, talking of the game, Spurs were very much a victim of their own downfall. They should have conceded actually quite early on when they allowed Dwight Gale to force 2 good saves out of Hugo Lloris. He probably should have scored on both of those attempts, really. And then they got caught out playing from the back, and now. This is going to sound a little bit controversial, and Fran's probably going to hate me for saying this, but do you think that Spurs have the ball-playing quality players at the back to play out from the back in the way that they're trying to?
Well, the problem is I think their defence is getting on a bit, isn't it, with the likes of sort of Alderweireld and that. I think they do need to bring in a centre-back in the summer. And I'm a bit confused with their signing of Doherty, to be honest.
He's not really done a lot, has he?
No, I don't know if they knew the type of player he was, because Josie obviously likes to play like a flat back 4, and Doherty just isn't that at all. He's almost a winger.
Yeah, and if you look at the back line, I mean, it was Tanganga, Sanchez, Rodon, and Reguilon at the back for Spurs. Now, Reguilon, I do rate. I think he's a fantastic left back, but on a ball playing perspective, I'm not convinced on Sanchez. I've not seen enough of Tanganga to be certain on him, and the same for Rodon. But the way they were playing the ball around, it was almost like watching Arsenal do. Do you remember Arsenal earlier in the season where they kept getting caught out doing that, with like David Luiz and Gabriel kept doing that? Yeah. It just felt like the same to me, like they were just overplaying it, because they were sort of like they were being drilled on the training ground where we must play out from the back. We have to, be this ball playing team, and we must build from the back. And sometimes you think, you know what, if it's not on, just fucking lump it.
I think that's modern football, isn't it? You see almost every team trying to play it out from the back, and even goalkeepers nowadays, almost every goalkeeper is trying to play with their feet. And I've only seen Ederson really that's actually been confident enough to do it. You see all the other even the likes of Alisson, it just doesn't look comfortable at all with the ball at his feet.
Yeah, it's I think Pickford and Ederson are probably the 2 better ones. I mean, Pickford's still got a mistake in him, don't get me wrong, but generally speaking, with the ball at his feet, he's reasonable. But no, I know what you say. But I mean, from Newcastle's point of view, what you must do when you get your nose in front, once Joelinton gets that goal, which was, it was well taken in the end, but it was a bit of a gift. What you must do when you started playing so well, you've got yourself in front. What you can't do is give away a goal straight away. And Newcastle gave one away within about 90 seconds. It was a fairly scrappy goal with a poor clearance. And then they conceded a second about 5 minutes later with what was a very good goal from Harry Kane, the second one. And at that point, you're just thinking, look, Steve Bruce must be tearing what little hair he has left out of his head.
Yeah, I think, especially, getting a goal against Spurs and going 1-0 up. Obviously unlikely, and then to go and lose it straight away, you probably thought that was game done.
Yeah, but credit where credit's due. They did keep fighting, and they definitely, they deserved a point. I mean, you could make a case for saying that they actually deserved all three out of this game. I did think they played very, very well. Nice little touch that it was an Arsenal loanee that got the equaliser in Joe Willock. But when you look at Newcastle's run-in between now and the end of the season, we've talked about this before, it really does not make for good reading. And we'll look at each individual team in and around the bottom 3 or 4 and look at their run-ins. But Newcastle's is by far the worst. So let's go through these here. So Burnley away, do you see them getting much out of that? I mean, that's a huge, huge game.
Yeah, and Burnley just lost to Southampton after going 2-0 up. So, I mean, they could get points out of that game.
It's 100%. They have to target a win there because then you look at the run of games after. As West Ham at home, I mean, we've just lost Declan Rice for a month, maybe more, which is obviously a big blow to us. But we do have a lot of quality, and we're playing very well. So that's going to be a very tough game for Newcastle. Liverpool away again. Don't really know with Liverpool, but you would expect, Jota's back and amongst the goals is just signs of recovery from them. Arsenal at home, what do you think?
Unlikely, but at the same time, it's a bit like this Spurs game. Arsenal are very consistent as well.
Yeah, Leicester at the weekend. Leicester away is after that. Then Man City at home. So you look at those games. There's 5 games in a row there where you're looking at that and thinking, well, if you can pick up a surprise win or a surprise point here or there, then that would be priceless. But then the last 2, Sheffield United at home and Fulham away. So you've got Burnley, Sheffield United and Fulham to play. In theory, if they were to win all 3 of those, you would say that's enough.
City should have won the Premier League by then, so potentially be resting players for the Champions League and the FA Cup.
Yeah, that's true. Sheffield United are going to be long gone by that point, you would think. So they're only playing for pride. So there's every chance that Newcastle, in theory, should be able to go there and turn them over. And then we've sort of said, haven't we, that, is it going to come down to that last game of the season against Fulham? Well, we've theorised that actually the way Newcastle have been playing, that it may be done and dusted by then. But, this result now just puts that back in the works again, doesn't it? That we might just have this last day of the season playoff between Newcastle and Fulham as to who stays in the league.
Yeah, I hope so. I would like to see another, almost like a title sort of challenge, but down by the relegation zone. Because last year we had quite a good one.
Yeah, we did it. I mean, it did go down to the last day with obviously Bournemouth losing out, with Villa getting a draw at West Ham. So let's just talk Spurs very briefly then. It's another disappointing result, which means they did miss out on the chance to go into the top 4. Would you say, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about their inability to see games out. Do you think it's becoming a concern? I mean, they've dropped now 15 points for winning positions this season.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not ideal, is it?
No, I feel like the problem with Spurs almost sort of don't want to go 1-0 up, because for me, their tactic is to protect a 1-0 lead. So as soon as they go 1-0 up, they sort of shut up shop.
I feel like with Spurs, there is an element of, as you say, this Mourinho's trying to play this defensive football, as you say, but he's doing it with quite an attacking team. He's got, if you look at his starting lineup against Newcastle, for example, so we've already spoken about the back 4. He's then got Giovanni Lo Celso, who's quite an attacking midfielder, and Ndombele, who's a bit of a box-to-box. You've got then Højbjerg as well, but then you've got Mora, you had Vinicius, you had Harry Kane, and there's been other times where you've had a front 3, or, maybe you take Lo Celso out of that, maybe put Son in there or something like that. But one of the criticisms has been that he's playing defensive football with a very attacking side. So if you do that, these attacking players are not going to be as well drilled or as well focused when it comes to doing the defending. So is that potentially one thing that they need to stop doing? Yeah,
definitely. I think you're right. I think they've got so much attacking talent, but at the other end of the pitch, it's probably their weaker sort of half. And I don't really rate Lloris. Nothing in this game was his fault in particular, but I don't feel like he's as good as he once was.
No. And they've let 11 points slip now after conceding goals in the final 10 minutes of games as well, which is the most of any Premier League side this season. And also, they also top the list for the most games failed to win when leading at half-time. They've been in front at half-time.
Why he didn't play Gareth Bale? Like, why he didn't start? So it was a patch where it was Kane, Son, Moura and
Vinicius.
Bale.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In previous games, you mean?
Yeah. But now he seems to, obviously Son was on the bench and came on, but I don't know why Gareth Bale sat there and he's not playing when he's actually done, every time he's played, he's done pretty well.
Maybe it just finished a round.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, he started Son, Bale and Lamela all on the bench. All three of those have been in reasonably good form. So it did surprise me when I saw the starting lineup that he decided to start Vinicius up front with Harry Kane. So yeah, it's Gareth Bale got all of about 2 minutes at the end. He came on in the 88th minute. His first touch was a free kick, which I think is still rising. And Lo Celso... Just trying to look. So Vinicius came off at half-time for Son. Lamela then came on for Moura, but on about the hour mark, and then Bale in the last 2 minutes. So, yeah, it's an odd lineup. When you've got players like Son and Bale on the bench, it does make you wonder why. Was this another statement from Mourinho for something, or was this resting players coming back of international duty?
Potentially, or maybe he just thought he had enough quality out there to beat Newcastle and rest them for the next game. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about some of Spurs' failings here, and how much of this falls on Mourinho? Because predictably, after the game, his conference was all about the players and their inability to hold on to the lead in what he called moments of instability. Nothing about him as always. In fact, he was actually asked about his side's inability to hold on to leads, as it has. Mourinho teams of the past have always been pretty good at that, at holding on to leads and seeing games out. And he again just blamed the players. He just said, same manager, different players. I just think if you're in that group of players, like, do you think they're mature enough to sort of hold their hands up and say, do you know what, he's right? Or do you think they're just going to get like, fuck off criticising us all the time? Take some blame yourself for a change.
I don't know. I feel like someone like Harry Kane would sort of agree and would take the criticism on board. But I feel like someone potentially like Dele Alli would go the opposite way, sort of like Pogba did at United. I think it depends on the ego.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because Dele Alli he's had such a weird season with Mourinho. It's always like there's always one player with Mourinho that has these kind of weird seasons. He seems to be in the squad again, but he obviously didn't get onto the weekend. I just feel like how was a talent as good as Dele Alli a few seasons ago, how has it come to this point where he's now literally not playing for Spurs, not playing football at all? So I don't get it. I really don't. But anyway, performance-wise, it wasn't the worst from Spurs. 2 goals from Kane again, which, if I read the stat right about Harry Kane, it now takes him second only to Lewandowski in terms of goal contributions, so goals and assists in all of Europe. It's 16 assists and 29 goals in all competitions, which is quite astonishing. And talk about him moving clubs is surfacing again, probably because of what's happened with the news of Aguero leaving at the end of the season for City. Do you see a situation where he leaves Tottenham in the summer?
I just can't see anyone being able to afford him.
But if he did go to City, that would be bloody beautiful. Imagine watching City play with Harry Kane up front. Oh,
but I just don't.
You're saying that as a Spurs fan. You should be dead against that.
No, I don't. I mean, yeah, I don't really care. I'd rather just watch good football. And imagine him at City. That would be unreal.
Yeah, I mean, I did read somewhere that Daniel Levy has put a very, very large price tag on him, as you know you would do. I believe that he's got a very long contract. I think it runs until 2024, 25 maybe. And he's on like 200 grand a week. Not that the wages are going to be a problem for City. But yeah, it is going to take an astronomical bid for them to prize Harry Kane away. So it might come down to whether Harry Kane himself asks to leave and whether he pushes that himself.
I think that's what it would have to come down to. I think he would literally have to sort of hand in a transfer request for it to sort of go through.
Do you think he'd want to leave? Has there been anything from him?
I don't know. It's a tough one. I just can't see him winning anything. If he wants to be winning like the Champions League and the Premier League, he's not going to do it at Spurs.
No.
It depends. At the same time, if he wants to become a Spurs legend and break the Spurs scoring records, etc., then obviously he'll have to stay at Spurs. So it depends what he wants out of his career.
Yeah, exactly. It does boil down to that. I mean, he's, according to a quick Google I've just done, he's going to be, so in 2024, 2025 will be when he's a free agent. He'll be 30 by that point. So you would argue that as a striker, he's coming to the end of his prime years. So are Spurs likely to win a trophy within the next 4 seasons? You would say right now, probably not. Bearing in mind, obviously, they are in a Carling Cup final, or not Carling Cup final. That's very old school of me. The Carabao Cup final, I should say. So, yeah, as you say, Dan, it definitely comes down to what he wants. And I would kind of respect him if he turned around and said, you know what, I'm not interested in trophies. I want to be remembered at Spurs as being a legend. I want to go down. I want to break all the records I can for the club that I love, the club that I've grown up with. I think you have to kind of respect that.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, he's scoring goals and it's good for England either way. So as a neutral, it would be great news either way. He's going to score goals no matter where he goes, isn't he?
Yeah, it's just whether he can deal with the fact that the entire world's media are going to be constantly looking back on his career as the greatest player to never win a trophy or something like that. But anyway, big game next for Spurs, home to Manchester United. How do you think that one's going to go?
Well, it went very well last time.
Not for United, it didn't.
Hopefully it goes like that again.
Well, the way we played against Brighton, I'm not too overly confident, but yeah.
Excellent. Right. Well, maybe we'll have maybe we'll do like another Kickabout Derby video for that one or something like that. If we can organise something. Anyway, right. Let's move on. Let's talk Aston Villa against Fulham. Now, this was so close to being a massive, massive victory for Fulham. 3 goals in the last 10 minutes in a game that Aston Villa really did not look like they were going to win. It was a really odd game because there wasn't a huge amount of quality in this game. I managed to watch a reasonable portion of this game, and Mitrovic being back in the starting lineup, 5 goals in 3 games for Serbia in the international break, and brought that form back a little bit. He looked a little bit like the old Mitrovic again, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, at the start of the season, he didn't really start at all, did he? I think he was their top scorer in the Championship, and he couldn't even get a look in when they came back up to the Premier League.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if there were too many fantasy league managers who didn't take a gamble on Mitrovic at the start of the season, because the last time Fulham were in the Premier League when he was there, he was basically their only goal scorer, and I think he got like 10 or 15 goals. So I think everyone would have looked at Mitrovic coming back in the Premier League again, all the attributes. He's been here before, put him in, and I think this is only his 2nd goal this season, I think. So yeah, for all the criticism we were throwing at Joelinton earlier, Mitrovic hasn't been much better. Yeah. Even if it was a bit of a gift of a goal from a fairly uncharacteristic mistake from Tyrone Mings. But yeah, Fulham looked in total control. I mean, we've been talking quite positively about them over the last few games. They're actually undefeated in about the last 8 games away from home, I believe. Not picking up many wins, but they weren't losing, and they looked on course for it. This would have been such a big 3 points for them. This really would have applied the pressure to Newcastle, because they would have gone above them.
I felt sorry for Parker, actually, because every goal that Villa scored, I sort of saw the life get sucked out of him.
It's like part of his soul was leaving his body.
I felt so sorry for him, because I do like Fulham, and sort of watching them, I almost cheer them on every week, because I do feel they deserve to stay up.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's almost like they're the nice boys of the Premier League, aren't they? Yeah. Everybody likes Scott Parker. He's a really nice guy. He always comes across really well in his conferences, always backs himself and backs his players. Just stark contrast to the guy we've just been talking about. But after the game, he was actually asked about, because of the nature of the way they've lost the game, when they were in such total control, and then Villa just blitzed them in 10 minutes after a couple of substitutions. And he was asked, how are you going to lift your players? How difficult is it going to be? And his response was just so brilliant. He just went, no, it'd be easy. He literally dusted it off. He was like, no, it'd be perfectly easy. This is just a bump in the road. This is not the first bump in the road we've had. We've always picked ourselves up. We've always fought back. We'll just learn. We'll work on it in the training pitch, and we'll come back stronger next week. And I thought, do you know what? If I'm a chairman of that football club, that is exactly the sort of man I want in charge. Somebody who speaks like that to the media. Nothing but positivity.
Yeah, and I think, even if they do sort of unfortunately avoid staying up, I think they're definitely they should definitely keep him for next season because I think he would get them back up again.
Yeah, and as far as I know, he is very well liked at Fulham, and it's easy to see why. So let's just quickly talk Villa for a second before we talk about Fulham's remaining fixtures. They continue to miss Jack Grealish, and there was rumours that there was a chance that he was going to be back in the squad this weekend, but apparently he suffered a setback in training on, I think it was over the weekend, actually, it might be the day before. No news currently on how bad that is, but Villa didn't have a shot on target in the first half of this game for the fourth home game in a row. Now, obviously, from a creativity standpoint, it's left a huge hole in this Aston Villa team. Now, I just going back to the England point. Is this injury to Grealish, and there's been a lot of talk about whether Grealish might miss out. How big a player for England do you think Grealish is going to be? We all know he's huge for Aston Villa, but what about England? Do we think, is he a necessity in that starting 11?
Definitely in the squad. I don't know. I think he would start, but I think the thing with Grealish is his versatility. You can play him almost anywhere over the sort of the front line.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't know. I mean, Gareth Southgate seems to think he knows what his starting lineup's going to be. I'm not entirely convinced of that. I still think that he's got a lot of decisions that he's still got to make. I'm fairly certain that he doesn't know who's going to play on the right wing, for example. I'm fairly certain that the left wing he's going to pick Sterling. I don't think that he's going to choose Rashford. I don't think he's going to choose Grealish out on that left. I think he's going to go with Sterling.
Yeah, and I don't really like it when managers say, that they've got their starting lineup in their head already, like 4 months before the actual competition. I'd rather if he kept every player on their toes and every player believing that they could still get in the squad.
Yeah, and when he picks a squad like that so close to the Euros, you're thinking to yourself, this must be a squad made up of players that he's definitely wanting to take. So then you look at people like Trent Alexander-Arnold, who didn't get in the squad, and then he played obviously very well at the weekend and maybe sent a message. But yeah, going back to Grealish and Villa, sorry, I deviated off there a little bit, but is there downturn in form? The lack of goals. Do Villa have a bigger problem? Do they have a bigger reliance on Grealish than they should?
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't just rely on one player. Well, we saw it with Crystal Palace, the amount of games that they were losing while Zaha was injured. And it's pretty much exactly the same thing with Villa. I think Villa do have a better squad, but they brought in players like Barkley, I think, to try and help fill that hole when Grealish isn't about, but he's just not performed for them at all.
Yeah, I just wonder, if Grealish, depending on how big a setback this is, if he does come back and if he's ready to go, he's had a little bit of a break, maybe he comes back a bit refreshed. That it's crazy to say, but they've got a game in hand. I'm not actually sure who that's to play, but if they were to win that, it takes them to within 2 points of Liverpool, Spurs, and West Ham, who are currently playing Wolves. And I don't know the score of that at the moment, but let's just assume that we were to lose, they would be 2 points away from all of them. It's still a chance for Villa, for a European push. It's not out of the question.
Yeah, no, they can still. I think, like I've said all season, I think the main thing for them was avoiding relegation. So anything above that, they're laughing really. So I think it's just almost getting to the end of the season and then picking a new objective. I can't imagine that. I know obviously they will be having one eye on Europe, but I can't imagine they'll be too disappointed if they don't get it.
No, I don't think that would be a healthy attitude to take, as you say, after having such a close run thing last season with relegation. Just touching on Fulham finally. So let's look at their remaining fixtures. So the next is Wolves at home. Wolves are, again, not knowing what the score is, West Ham right now, they're in a bit of, I wouldn't say disarray, but obviously they've missed Jimenez massively this season. They've fallen down the league a little bit. That's a game that Fulham should really target.
Yeah, I'm surprised at Wolves, actually. I know they have lost Jimenez, which is been a massive sort of thing for them. But I thought without Europe this year, they would really, I thought they'd even maybe sort of go towards the Champions League, because they've been knocking on the door the last couple of seasons, but they've really dropped off this season.
Yeah, they have. Then they've got Arsenal at home. Arsenal away, Chelsea away. 2 games where, up until this weekend where Chelsea was out against West Brom, you would have said that Chelsea's nailed on 3 points for Chelsea, but, who knows? Arsenal, who knows? Burnley at home, huge game for that one for Fulham. Huge game. If they can get a win there, potentially plunges Burnley into trouble, but also catapults Fulham right near the edge.
Yeah, I think Wolves, Burnley and Southampton, they should really be aiming to win those games.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, as you say, Southampton away the following after that. Then they finish with Manchester United away, and then that big match that we've spoken about with Newcastle at home. So you compare the 2 runs between Newcastle and Fulham, and this is assuming, by the way, that it is going to come down to Newcastle and Fulham, that that teams like Brighton and Burnley aren't going to get pulled back into this. If it is going to be between Newcastle and Fulham, you would say that Fulham have by far the easier run in.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, fingers crossed. I don't wish relegation on any team, but I would like to see Fulham to stay up. But the football gods will decide. But hopefully, we'll see Parker back in the Premier League if they do go down. Right, let's move on. Let's talk Southampton, Burnley. The last one we'll talk about before the break. Cracking game, this one at St Mary's. Southampton coming back from 2 goals down to win 3-2. We'll start with just a quick bit on Burnley. So Burnley, as things stand, are probably just far enough away that they're not too concerned about relegation. They're 7 points away from Fulham at the moment, but a win here, if they'd hung on to that 2-0 lead, that probably would have been enough to say we're safe now. That would have been 10 points.
Yeah, I actually said to Fran before this game that there was no chance I was watching it because it would be the most boring game of the weekend.
Yeah, literally, he was like, who would watch that game? I was like, oh, you can watch that. You've got time then. Oh, who would watch that? The first game on that day,
Yeah, I was very wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's Burnley played okay. I mean, it felt to me that it was quite a typical Burnley display, which was very much epitomised by that second goal where Wood got that sort of quite easy flick on from a long ball, and then Mateo Vidra came through and scored. I wonder where Burnley's ambitions kind of sit, though. Do you think are they just happy to just be in the Premier League? Is that where their ambitions kind of start and end?
It feels like it. They don't really push the boat out with transfers, do they? I don't really have a record. Like, I don't ever think, oh, Burnley have signed such and such. I almost forget that, not to sound bad, but I almost forget that they're there a lot of the time. You just, every now and again, you see someone's playing them.
Yeah, and I mean, I know I'm trying to think, was it Burnley that had some investors come in? I think they have had some investment come into the club, so it'll be interesting to see whether they are able to exercise a little bit more financial muscle in the summer. But it does. I just wonder, what Burnley fans feel. Under Sean Dyche, they're extremely unlikely to ever get relegated, regardless of how close they get, like this season. I think we're all in agreement that Burnley are not going to go down this season, but I just feel like Burnley fans would want more. Just show a bit of ambition, or at the very least, really go after a cup run, maybe.
Yeah, and I mean, Sean Dyche has been linked with the Crystal Palace job at the end of the season, so be interested to see. Do you think that's a step up?
For who?
Well, for both.
That's a tricky one. It probably is,
Put you on the spot.
but it's a very small step. I feel like Palace have probably, player for player, Palace have probably got a better squad, player for player. It's very, very close. I think Palace have got a better attacking lineup, but Burnley are better defensively. So if I was Sean Dyche, would I want that move? I don't think I would. If I'm Sean Dyche, he's got a very good thing going at Burnley. He's liked, he's respected. I would be inclined to suggest that he waits for a slightly bigger step forward, unless Palace are going to give him, like a war chest of like 100 million to go and spend on players. But I don't see that happening either.
Problem is that Burnley's got all the players he sort of wants tactically, whereas if he goes to Palace, he's got to try and work with what he's got, type thing.
Yeah, and he's obviously going to have to, train the players to play his way. They've been playing under Roy Hodgson for a number of years. Yeah, I don't think it will happen. I think it would be. I think it's a very risky move for both parties, frankly. So yeah, we'll see. In terms of Burnley's running, they've got Newcastle at home next, as we've talked about. That's a huge game, as we've said. Then they've got Manchester United away, Wolves away, West Ham at home, Fulham away, Leeds at home, Liverpool at home, and Sheffield United away. So we were talking about Fulham's running being easier than Newcastle's, but you would say that Burnley's run is probably more favourable than both of those.
Yeah, I don't think Burnley have too much worry about the relegation zone, to be honest. They'll find the points.
Yeah, I dare I say it? I think it might just be one more win. I think one more win might do it, because that would effectively take it to 10 points, and that would mean that the other teams have got to win 3 games and maybe draw 1, depending on goal difference, to catch up with them. And I don't see Fulham and Newcastle picking up that many points between now and the end of the season.
No, I don't think they will.
So let's just touch on Southampton quickly, because we've, they've had an interesting season. First of all, I just wanted to ask, do you think that Danny Ings will be at Southampton next season?
He's had a very good season.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he went to Liverpool and it didn't work out. So
in fairness to him, he barely got an opportunity because he had a really serious knee injury, didn't he? And by the time he came back, they'd already moved on and replaced him.
I just don't know which club I could see him at, type thing.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because in my notes actually as well, I've said that he did show a lot of class in this game. He played a lovely little reverse ball for Armstrong for his goal, and then he took his goal really, really well. Lovely, calm and composed finish. But just what you touched on there, Dan, outside of West Ham, who the whole fucking world knows that we're after about 15 strikers in the summer, I don't see which other of those top clubs, and I use top in very much inverted brackets, with West Ham being included in that just because of our current position in the league. But yeah, which club would want him that's a step up enough in quality to justify that move? He's going to have to go into a team and potentially compete with, a striker. If you look at somewhere, Leicester, could he go to Leicester and replace Vardy? That's probably the only one I can see.
Yeah, Leicester's a good shout. I mean, I was going to say he's almost like a sort of Everton type player, but they've got Calvert-Lewin, and I can't see him getting ahead of Calvert-Lewin. But yeah, Everton's a good shout. Although Ian Atchow's obviously been playing quite well in recent weeks. I don't see him as like a top 4 player.
Do you think that boat has sailed for him?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's a bit harsh. I don't know. I don't see any top 4 club wanting to take a gamble on him.
Yeah, no, I see where you're coming from. There was a very brief rumour flying around about Danny Ings to Man City, but I feel like that may have been an April Fool's joke. Because as much as I think Danny Ings is a great player, I don't think he's likely to be in Man City's on their radar.
Do you know how old he is?
He is, I believe he's about 27. Hold the line, caller. Let me do a quick Google here. He's 28.
Okay, so he's in his prime now then, really.
Yeah, and he has obviously had 1 or 2 niggling injuries this season and last, but thankfully not too many. And actually, if you look at his overall stats for Southampton, I mean, they're pretty damn good. I mean, he scored 43 goals in 93 games for Southampton. That's 1 almost every 2 games. And how many teams have got strikers with that level of firepower up front who can say they've got a striker who's scoring 1 in every 2 games?
Well, no, exactly. How much do you reckon Southampton would want for him? Like 60?
Well, here's the interesting thing. So according to the website that I'm on, he is contracted until June next year. So he's only got a year to run.
Oh, okay.
So that would make him... so he's 29 in July, so he'll be pushing 30 by the time that contract runs out. If he can keep fit and keep firing, I suspect a club would definitely take him on a risk as a free transfer, because there's obviously a lot less risk there. But because of that, he might be available this summer at a slightly cut down price just because of that contract. If he decides he's not going to sign another contract, that might bring his price down.
Yeah. I mean, maybe someone like Wolves.
Wolves are in desperate need of a striker, aren't they?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see.
I could see him in. I think it just depends who's got the money and how much Southampton would try and get for him.
Yeah. And it'd be a big loss to Southampton. They would do very well to replace him if he was to leave. Just touching on Southampton just quickly before the break. I don't think we ever really considered Southampton as relegation candidates this season, but it's actually surprising when I looked at the table before this game. They were equal on points with Burnley. They were only on 33 points. They were only 7 points above the drop zone before this game. So this was actually quite a big victory for Southampton.
They're a really strange team, Southampton. I mean, right at the start of the season, they were sort of up there in the Champions League places. And then obviously they've had like a 9-0 loss last season, 9-0 loss this season. And then they went on like an 8-game losing streak or something like that. And you just never know what you're going to get with Southampton.
Yeah, it's all the more surprising when you look back at the start of the season. So I did a bit of digging, because I remember at the start of the season we were waxing lyrical about Southampton and how well Hasenhüttl had done. They were fourth in the table after 13 games. They'd just drawn 1-1 with Arsenal, and now 29 games in, 15 games since that point, 3 wins since then, and that's quite a significant fall. Managers have been sacked for less.
Yeah, and I definitely think he's got the quality at Southampton to do a lot better than that.
Yeah. Do you think Southampton will be, given where they were after 13, 14 games, do you think they'll be quite disappointed how this season's gone?
Yeah, definitely. I think Southampton have sort of had the season that West Ham had last season, where they were expecting bigger things and ended up almost fighting relegation.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it will be, obviously I think they're well and truly safe now. Not that I ever actually think they were in that much danger. It was just quite interesting to see how close they ended up getting to the relegation zone during this bad run. So they will want to pull away a little bit and just at least end the season on a high. Right, let's go to a break then. When we come back, we are going to bring our guest on for this week, and we're going to talk about the Chelsea West Brom game and then get into football with Fran, where hopefully Dan is going to start trying to earn some points for us. Otherwise, it's going to get quite embarrassing for us. See you in a minute. Everybody, and welcome back to the show. So we have good news for you all. We hired some private investigators. We managed to locate a West Brom fan. I can promise you, however, we had actually planned Tom for last week, but obviously because baby turned up, we didn't record last week. But I mean, what a coincidental piece of timing that we delay it a week and then this result happens at the weekend. So welcome to the show, Tom, and what a week for you to be here.
I know, right? Thanks for having me on. I still can't really get over the weekend result.
Well, I mean, West Brom obviously fighting for their lives. We do often see these kind of results where teams fighting for their lives might pull up the odd surprise result, but usually it's a 1-0 or a 2-1.
Yeah,
not a 5-2.
But yeah, it just sums up like me being a West Brom fan. Even when we were 4-2 up, I was like, this could still be a 5-4 Chelsea win, because like the amount of West Brom games I've been to where they've been 2-0 up at half time and lost 3-2 is insane. So
yeah, I mean yeah. When obviously you saw Chelsea go 1-0 in front, I presume you were fearing the worst at that point.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be 4 or 5-0, to be perfectly honest. But pleasantly surprised. Like, yeah, don't think we'll stay up, but it's better to go down swinging.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when the red card happens, I mean, Dan, I don't know what did you think of the red card? I know Joe Morton thinks that both yellow cards were quite harsh. I must admit, I only saw the second one, and I have to say, I'm not so sure I agree with Joe on the second one. What did you think?
Yeah, I don't think you can disagree with the decision, to be honest. The first yellow card, he's just taken one for the team. So no, fair enough to him there. But the second one, I don't think you can argue with it. He's sort of, I see what he's tried to do, and it almost looks like he's slipped, but he's not got any part of the ball, and he's taken him out. So it's a yellow card.
I mean, it's a bit like that. I'm trying to think who it was. There was a lot of controversy not long ago. I think was it in the Arsenal Spurs game about a tackle? Yeah, it was Sanchez, wasn't it? Where he came in to try and block a shot and ended up taking Lacazette out, wasn't it? And I kind of feel like it was the same here. I don't believe that Thiago was actually trying to take out whoever it was that was shooting. But, if you jump at somebody like that and lunge at them, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah, you can't argue it, to be honest. Even if you slip, if you take someone out, it's still a foul.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I mean, I guess even after that red card, I mean, this was on about 29 minutes or around that mark. I don't think anybody could have ever have predicted what would happen after that. I mean, absolutely extraordinary how West Brom, they really put Chelsea to the sword, Tom. I mean, there's no question that Chelsea weren't at the races. You know, even though they'd gone down to 10 men, you would expect Chelsea with the quality they have to still put up a much better fight than they did. But when you watched that, Tom, did you feel as a fan that, like, where the hell has this team been all season? You were so clinical.
Yeah, I think it was just more, I feel like we sat back quite a lot of the season, especially since Allardyce has come in. And I feel like, I can't remember what minute it was, but he was going to bring Ivanovic on, but he didn't. And he brought on Robinson, and I feel like that's where it kind of turned a bit. And it's annoying because Pereira was playing so good last season in the Championship. I know it's like a step up, but I feel like that was the kind of glimpses of what he was like last season. So, yeah, I couldn't really believe it, to be honest.
I mean, Matheus Pereira and Callum Robinson were obviously the two standouts in this game. And I feel like maybe along with Sam Johnston, they've probably been your standout players this season, would you say?
Yeah. I think, I don't know if other West Brom fans will agree with me, but I think Gallagher, who's on loan from Chelsea, I feel like he's been pretty good in the centre. And then Townsend comes through with a few good performances. I feel like West Brom's problem this season, I think we've had quite a lot of red cards. I know a few games I've watched, the Everton game earlier in the season, I think it was 2-2 at one point. And then Gibbs got sent off. And that's been kind of the case quite a lot of the season. And it's normally just like silly mistakes, kind of going down to 10 men and then having to like do the classic Sam Allardyce, like park up the gravy train, sit at the back. And then, I mean, I'm just happy because like West Brom don't normally score more than like 1 or 2 goals a game, and to get 5, I'll take that.
Yeah. I mean, West Brom up to this stage had only scored 20 goals all season, so you've added 25% of your goal tally in one afternoon.
Yeah, I saw as well, like Callum Robinson hasn't scored a Premier League goal against any other team than Chelsea.
Well, yeah, because you drew 3-3 early in the season, didn't you? And it was a cracking game earlier on in the season. So I think I saw a stat that from Chelsea's point of view, I think this is the most goals they've conceded against the same team in a single season, because obviously now conceded 8 goals against West Brom all season.
Yeah, that's a good feeling, because I think, since Tuchel's come in, they've been so solid at the back. I think, have they only conceded like 2 in the last however many games?
I believe so. They hadn't conceded at home, I know that.
Yeah, so it's unreal, really. I think I read before the game as well, like Thiago Silva was only meant to get like a run out for a bit of match fitness. And then he ends up like getting a red card and throwing a spanner in the works. But I feel I feel like a lot of people will say Chelsea did play bad, but I feel like West Brom really turned up that day.
One of the goals that West Brom scored was like watching Barcelona.
Yeah, it was like the volley, the Callum Robinson volley.
I can't remember which, but one of them, I think it was, is it Diango, or however you say his name?
Yeah.
Sort of West Brom passed it, sort of doing 1-2s all the way through the Chelsea team, and then Diango just passed it into the back of the net.
Yeah, that was a good goal. He's been pretty good since we got him from, it was like Galatasaray or something like that, some Turkish side. But I know in his first game he had like 2 disallowed goals because of VAR. So, I mean, if we get to keep him when we go down, because I do suspect we'll go down, I feel like he'll be pretty good in the Championship. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite an incredible day altogether. I mean, before we dive deeper into your current affairs, I want to go back a little bit further in the current season. Slaven Bilic obviously got the job last season. He got you up at the first attempt.
Yeah.
Now, as a West Ham fan, obviously we've had experience with Slaven Bilic. He did a really good job with us, giving us that last season at Upton Park. I mean, granted, Dimitri Payet carried the team that season, but he gave us such a great send off for that season. And he always struck me as a manager who the players absolutely love. They'll run through walls for him. He works hard. He loves what he does, but perhaps just lacking a bit tactically. Would you agree with that? Would you say that maybe he just didn't quite have the tactical nous to succeed at the top level?
Yeah, I feel like he was dealt a bit not the best card when we did come up. Like he wasn't given a really big budget. But I feel like the problem is that he just wouldn't change the system when it clearly wasn't working. Like he'd always try to play the two deep holding midfielders that I don't think they had enough quality to play that sort of style in the Premier League. And it was, I think the first 5-6 games of the season, they looked just a class below every other team. So I feel bad because he did a real good job bringing us up and did make some like stellar signings, but yeah, it just wasn't to be really. I don't have any like a classic thing of like ill feelings towards, not like when we had Pardew and stuff like that. I feel like he'll bounce back from it regardless.
I mean, as you say, it wasn't a great start of the season, but by the time he got sacked, there were just signs of improvement. I mean, the players were working hard, and you ended up the day after, or the game after he was sacked was the Man City game at the Etihad, where I think you got a draw.
Yeah.
And then he gets the boot, and in comes Big Sam.
Yeah, I feel like it must have been pre-planned. Surely he must have knew he was going to be getting kicked out. I wasn't that happy about Big Sam though, but I thought, well, he hasn't been relegated, has he? I feel like he has a stellar record for that. He's like a survival manager, but I don't think it was a long-term thing.
No, I don't. Aside from Bolton, I don't think Sam Allardyce has spent more than a couple of years at any club. I think he was actually, to be fair, I think West Ham, was he at maybe 3 seasons at West Ham?
You guys hated him there, though, didn't you?
Do you know what? It was interesting because obviously he got us up at the first attempt. So no qualms there. He did bring in some good players. He managed to convince Kevin Nolan to come and play in the Championship, and he made a big difference. And then we got up into, I can't remember which season it was, whether it was the first season in the Premier League or the second season, but we had a freaking unbelievable first 6 months where we were right near the Champions League spaces and we were playing this really attacking brand of football, and everyone was like, who the fuck is this guy? What have you done with the real Sam Allardyce? No one could believe what was going on. And then he reverted to type, and we had the most boring, bland end to the season. We fell down the league and we ended up coming like 11th or something like that. And I just don't understand why he changed like that. And it seems like he's stuck with that same mentality ever since. At every club he's been to, it's been a stay strong at the back, try and nick a goal, and we build that way. And
yeah,
you know, as a West Brom fan, what do you have, with respect? Do you have the players to do that?
No, I don't think so. Because I mean, Bartley, I've never been a fan of him. Like at centre back, he just looks like he's a mistake away. And the same with Kieran Gibbs. I know some West Brom fans really rate Kieran Gibbs, but he's a bit dodgy, to be perfectly honest. I feel like we had potential with I think it's Nathan Ferguson, who went to Palace in the end. Yeah. I feel like he would have been a good sort of youngster to come through, but obviously was getting sort of chased by bigger teams. I like Ajayi. I think he's good. Mm-hmm. I feel like next season we might struggle to keep someone like Johnston in goal, he's really surprised me this season. Like I know he's like faced the most shots because obviously we are far down the table, but I think he's been real good. But
yeah, and obviously he's been called up to the England squads as well, so he's received the plaudits, and rightfully so. As you say, Johnston might move on. Do you think one or two others might move on if you were to go down, people like Pereira?
Yeah, I've read a thing the other day. I don't know how true it is because obviously like you can read anything on the internet, but apparently he's got 18 or 19 million sell clause if we get relegated.
Pereira does.
Yeah, so it's not even very high, and I feel like he'd do a pretty good job at a lower mid-table sort of team. So I mean, I can see him going, to be honest, but I feel like quite a lot of the bulk of the squad will stay. I don't think any of them have had massively standout seasons to get snapped up. It's not like when Hull went down and you knew like Maguire and Robertson were going to get taken.
Yeah,
I don't feel like it's that sort of scenario for West Brom.
One other player I wanted to touch on quickly as well, again coming from me as a West Ham fan, Grady Diangana.
Yes.
Now there was a bit of fuss made by West Ham fans when this transfer happened back in the summer. We saw him as a very young talent, a player that has come through our academy. He showed a lot of promise in pre-season as well. He was creating goals and looked really exciting. So when it transpired that we sold him for what we perceived as a fairly average amount of money for a young English talent, we were really upset about it. But I guess in hindsight, looking at West Brom's season, I mean, I don't know if he's injured at the moment, but I don't really see him playing a great deal at all.
Yeah, he hasn't really kicked off this season. he was amazing in the Championship, and I feel like he was there a season before or half a season before, when we had Harvey Barnes in for a bit. But yeah, was it 20 mil? Was that the sale price?
It was either it was somewhere between 15 and 20. I think maybe about 16. I think.
That does seem quite cheap, like really cheap. Because I know Pereira was around the same money, but yeah, I feel like that was probably a good move in the long run by West Ham. Like, I don't think he'd get into your starting squad.
Well, I mean, yeah, hindsight's a wonder, captain hindsight and all that. I mean, you look at the season West Ham are currently having. We've obviously brought in players to replace him in that position. So, I don't think you'll find a West Ham fan that will be too upset about it now, given despite how they were at the time. Now, you've mentioned a couple of times that you don't feel like you've got much of a chance of staying up. Your run is horrible. If you look at the fixtures that you've got, I mean, you've got Southampton next. You then got Leicester, Villa, Wolves, Arsenal, Liverpool, West Ham, and then Leeds. It's not great, but it's not awful. But you are 8 points from safety. It's a tall order. Do you think there's any chance that West Brom might survive?
I'll give it like 10% chance. It will be similar to the classic, I can't remember what season it was. It must have been early 2000s, the Great Escape season, where it come down to the last day.
Yeah.
I think it was like Portsmouth went down in the end or something. But I think we'll get close. I think it will be neck and neck between like Fulham, Newcastle, maybe West Brom like 1 or 2 points behind. Because I feel like after the Chelsea game, I'm feeling confident for the next few weeks. And I think the guys have shown that they can play a bit more aggressively. And there's no point just sitting back when they're already 8 points behind. You kind of got to step it up a bit.
But, absolutely. And if you are, to get anything from this season, it's not in your hands right now. You need Fulham and Newcastle to drop points. So, but when that happens, you have to be in a position to take advantage of that. So your next game against Southampton, they obviously got a big win at the weekend, but they have shown a reasonable amount of weakness over the last 15 games, as we talked about in the first half of the show. So that's definitely a game that you can target. And, if you win that game, and if Fulham and Newcastle, I think they're trying to think, Newcastle playing Burnley. I'm trying to think back to the fixtures we were talking about. I think Fulham have got Wolves. If they were to lose those games, all of a sudden it's 5 points, and 5 points sounds an awful lot better than 8.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Southampton is definitely a winnable game. I mean, they've been a bit shaky at the back since they was it 9-0 they lost. So it's a big loss, yeah. But like Danny Ings does scare me up front. He's clinical. Again, he was really good at the weekend. So
yeah,
I'm not sure.
It's been interesting. And so, I mean, worst case scenario, then, if you do get relegated, there's been some noise. I don't know whether you've seen this about Sam Allardyce demanding lots of money to stay. I don't know whether he's talking about money for himself or whether he's talking about potential money to bring in transfers, or maybe even both.
Yeah.
If you were to go down, is he the man that you would want to try and bring you back up, or would you want to see somebody else come in?
I'm not so sure, because he hasn't had many seasons in the Championship, has he? I mean, he brought you guys up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if going down and playing that style of football work in that league, because there's so many games across the entire season. I would like to see someone with a bit more flair, a bit more of a tactical flair come in.
Yeah, I'll give Allardyce his dues. When he came in and we played in the Championship, he didn't strike me as playing park the gravy train, as you said, football. But I wonder if that's down to the fact that we did manage to maintain a good squad and we brought some good players in. So player for player, we had a better team than most other teams in the Championship anyway. So we ended up seeing more of the ball. So it almost naturally became a not park the bus type approach, because we just saw so much of the ball anyway.
Yeah.
Now, if you're able to keep some of your better players, you might find you're in the same position where even if Allardyce does set you up a bit more defensively, you end up seeing so much of the ball that naturally you end up playing a bit more of an attacking brand of football anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that would be good. It's just the Championship is just such a horrible league to try and get out of. There's so many good teams in there now. Like 10 years ago, you'd kind of know what the sort of top 6 would be, but now it's like anyone's game. Like Barnsley are playing really good this season, and they nearly went down last season.
Yeah.
So it's a crazy league. It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, so before I ask Dan if he's got anything he wanted to touch on, $1 million question from me that I've seen dance around, and we talked about it on the show before. As a fan of a club who has spent some time both in the Championship and in the Premier League over the last sort of 10 years, what as a fan do you prefer? Do you prefer seeing West Brom win most weeks in the Championship, or do you prefer seeing them in the Premier League with the big dogs, but potentially losing most week and fighting relegation?
I think I like the rush of the Premier League seasons more, like you said, up there with the big teams.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely that. So we had some really good seasons in the Premier League. I think we had one really good season with Hodgson, and I just want to experience that again. You know, not be in a relegation dogfight from week 2. You know, so yeah, definitely Premier League. Love it.
All right, Dan or Fran, do you have anything you wanted to shout out?
No, you nicked my question right at the end there. So kick Tom's ass in the quiz whenever he's ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right, well, before we do that, let's just turn our attention to the listener segment quickly. So we asked this week what people's opinions were of whether or not Allardyce has got enough with this West Brom team to keep them up. So, Fran, if you're ready, what have people been saying about that question this week?
So Pete said, honestly, no. They have been outclassed all season, which is why they are where they are. The table never lies, and ultimately, what ifs don't keep you up in the Premier League. Oh, Pete, to the point there, Han.
Brutal honesty from Pete there.
Yeah. And then Shearer said, God, I hope not. For the first time in a while, watching the Newcastle game yesterday, I had some sort of hope if we get Callum Wilson backfiring, but anything is possible with that cabbage at the helm. And then Joe said no, and that he said we were pants, so he's talking about Chelsea were pants, plus having an extra man for over an hour after a pretty harsh red card helped a hell of a lot. We messaged back to Joe saying, you feel it was a harsh second yellow, or was the first one harsh? And he said both. The first was literally so early in the match and didn't need a card, and the second wasn't a yellow, and the ref clearly couldn't wait to get a red out, because any normal ref isn't giving a second yellow there. But fair play to West Brom, they can only beat what's in front of them, and they deserve to beat 10 men. Joe, that was level-headed of you at the end there.
It was. I feel like it was a double-edged sword, though. It was one of those ones where it was a backhanded compliment after what he said at the first bit.
Yeah.
But no, I hear the argument about it's too early to give a yellow card. I know what you're saying, because generally speaking, that's the said thing in football, that players do tend to get away with things early on in the game. So I can see where he's coming from, but it shouldn't be a thing. Like, if you've broken the rules and it's worthy of a yellow card, it shouldn't matter if it's the first minute or the 90th.
Yeah, I agree. 100% with that.
Excellent. Right. Okay. Well, before we get into the quiz, we have this to do. Damn the stat, man.
I completely forgot about this, actually. So yeah, Tom, you can join in on this one as well. Got 2 questions this time. The first one is, only one player has scored more Premier League own goals than Phil Jagielka. Can you tell me who it is?
Ooh.
This isn't the quiz, Tom, by the way.
This isn't the quiz.
Can I have a guess?
Yeah, go for it.
Macaulay. Is it Gareth Macaulay, West Ham defender?
No, good shout, but it's not.
Is it Richard Dunn?
It is Richard Dunn.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
Shame I'm not playing in the quiz this week.
The second question, also involving Jagielka, poor guy. He's the second oldest outfield player at 38 years old and 229 days to score an own goal in the Premier League. But who is the oldest player to score an own goal in the Premier League?
38. Ooh. It's got to be a goalkeeper. It's got to be some kind of shit own goal from a goalkeeper. I
did say outfield player, but you can...
okay. Perhaps it is a good thing I'm not doing the quiz this week. Who's playing in the Premier League beyond that age? My God. Milner? I don't know how old he is right now.
I don't think Milner's 38, yeah.
Is he not 38 yet? How old? He's got to be getting 38, isn't he? Don't know. I'm just spitballing. I have no idea.
Tom, any guesses?
I'll go 2 guesses. So 1, Gareth Barry. That's just because I know he's an old player in Premier League, and like someone from long ago, like Teddy Sheringham or something.
Oh, not a bad guess. It was Stuart Pearce.
Oh,
Stuart
no way! That
Pearce.
was gonna. I know people say this, but that was definitely my first choice. Because is it the really famous own goal where he heads it from like edge of his box in?
It was against Man United in 2001.
Ah, okay. Yeah, he scored some cracking own goals.
Right. Okay. So it's time for Dan to try and earn back some reputation points for the show as we head into Football with Fran.
In this week, catchphrase.
Every time I forget about that beautiful, beautiful music.
How can you forget about that? It's the best tune in all of podcast history.
It makes me so happy. So happy. Right. Welcome back to another 10th episode of Football with Fran. Right. Dan, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm good.
Tom, ready?
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Beautiful. I love how psyched you both are. This makes me so happy.
What are you going to do, Gladiators then?
Oh, I should get that guy so he can go, you will go on my first whistle.
Yeah, for when we're all back together, Chris, make that happen. Right. The first player is Carlos Tevez.
Oh, okay.
He has played for 7 clubs. So, Tom, as you're the guest, so how many clubs do you think you can name?
I'm going to go play it safe and go with 4.
Okay.
I can do 5.
Tom, can you go higher than 5?
I'll guess 6.
Oh, I love it.
Oh,
This is the tension we love on this show.
Dan.
I'm going to let him have the 6.
Right. Go on then, Tom.
So we got both United, City, and Manchester United, Boca Juniors,
Yeah.
West Ham.
Yeah.
I want to say Juventus, but I'm probably wrong.
No, you're right. You're right.
And it's some other smaller team. I'm going to guess River Plate.
No.
Oh, so close.
That was the 5 I had. I wouldn't have had the 6.
So close, Tom.
Oh.
No, others were Corinthians.
Yeah.
And what's the other one? Oh, Shanghai Shenhua.
Ooh.
Oh, I forgot you went to China. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, went to China, did absolutely nothing for 16 games and picked up about 500k a week.
Yeah.
Pay pack it.
Absolute mercenary. Absolute mercenary.
Right, so Dan, you're in the lead.
Lovely.
Come on, Dan.
Okay, next player is Kieran Dyer.
Oh, God.
He has played for 5 clubs. So, Dan, how many do you think you can name?
2, I think.
2, okay. Tom?
I'm going to go 3.
Tom, your confidence is making me...
It's a very, very attacking attitude. This is very not Sam Allardyce, this.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think I can name 4, so I'll let Tom do his 3.
Right, go on then, Hunt.
QPR, West Ham, Newcastle.
Yes,
Very good.
that's it.
Wow.
Hey, that's from the sticker books, the Panini sticker book. I remember getting.
And the others would be Middlesbrough and Ipswich.
Yeah, I'd never have got them.
Right, 1-1. Tom, I feel so proud of you. You know I should be rooting for Dan.
Yeah.
Can I just, before you move on, Frank, can I just say the reason I put Kieran Dyer in, because I saw something come out the other day that, I don't know how many years ago it was, something like 15 years ago, it was the anniversary of when Kieran Dyer and Lee Bowie had a scrap on the pitch for Newcastle.
Oh, I love that. I remember watching Match of the Day for that.
Oh, it was brilliant.
2 red cards, wasn't it?
Just while the game was going on. It wasn't even like the ball was out of play, they were just having a little scrap while the game was going on.
You didn't pass to him or something?
I don't. I think it was like a build-up of stuff going on over the game. But the best thing about the whole thing is that any manager would be fuming at that. But the last manager that you want to be in charge of your team when you fight one of your own teammates is Graham Souness. Oh dear. Anyway, sorry. Go on. Carry on, Fred.
The next player is Craig Bellamy.
Oh.
Played for 10 clubs. So, Tom, how many do you think you can name?
4.
Mm-hmm. He's played for 10. Yeah.
Dan's only got 2 down
Yeah,
so
I've never
far.
written 2 so far. And you said that very confidently as well. I don't think I can do 5.
I don't think you can do 3 at the moment.
Right, go for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, go on, Tom.
Newcastle, Man City, Liverpool, Cardiff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tom, smash.
Oh, yeah. And then he was manager at Cardiff for a bit, I think.
Yeah, so the teams are Norwich, Coventry, Newcastle, Celtic, Blackburn Rovers, Liverpool, West Ham, Man City, Cardiff, and Liverpool. Oh, I've already said Liverpool, but yeah.
Wow.
Well, there we go, 2-1.
Started strong.
Come on, Dan.
Next player, everyone's favourite, James Milner. Played for 6 clubs. Daniel, how many can you
Come
name?
on, Dan.
4.
Tom?
I think 4 as well.
I've got to write them down now. Quickly.
Okay. Right. Hold on. What? Tom's on this. Come on.
Okay, yeah, I think I've got it.
Right, go on then.
I hope I may have cocked this up.
Right.
Villa,
Yeah.
Liverpool,
Yeah.
City,
Yeah.
Leeds.
Smashed it. Well done.
Get in. We're going to a
Nice.
decider.
Nice.
Chris, I genuinely thought you were going to be like, we're going to Wembley. Well done. For reference, the other team was Swindon.
Yeah, never would have got that.
Newcastle. Did you name them?
I didn't know he played for Newcastle.
No, I didn't know that.
There you go. And the last player is Peter Crouch.
Oh, God.
Oh, legend.
11 clubs.
I've got to get my pen out for this one.
How have you not got the pen out for any others? Everyone else.
Because he's got a football manager up, that's why.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, Tom, how many do you think you can name? Oh my God,
Got 5 at the moment.
writing. How beautiful. You got 5,
Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah, I've got 5 at the moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many has he played for?
11.
Has he?
Any?
I will add that one, but I don't think it's right. I'll say 6.
Yeah, I'll go with 6 as well then.
Okay. If Tom said 6 and he's the guest, so Tom gets to go. Tom
Oh, I get to go. Okay.
So now
Oh, hang on. Well, where's this rule come from? Dan's on the brink here.
he's got to guess 7. He can't guess the same amount.
Yeah, but Tom.
I guess 6. And
Oh,
he said
sorry.
he could
Yeah.
All
no.
right. Okay. I'll guess 7 then.
Oh, all right, Tom. Bloody hell.
Let Tom go for his 7.
Tom, you name him, hun.
Right. Portsmouth,
Yeah.
Liverpool, Spurs, Villa, Stoke. These are the 2 I think I've got wrong. Norwich and Southampton.
No, you got them right. Well done.
Yeah.
No way! Oh.
Tom, oh my God.
Oh, my God. We're never going to win again, are we, Dan?
I'm sorry. I feel bad about winning.
I would never have got 8, to be honest.
So, yeah, it was Tottenham, Dulwich Hamlet.
Right.
Which Hamlet? That is a football manager team and a half.
IFK Hasselholm.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
Sweden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds like Sweden.
QPR, Pompey, Villa, Norwich, Southampton, Liverpool, Stoke, and Burnley.
Burnley.
Tom, well done.
Thanks.
Well played, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, very well done.
Right, well, despite best efforts, that means it's now 5-1 to the guests, Dan. This seemed like a really good idea when we brainstormed this. Oh dear. Anyway, it's Tom. Thank you very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you on, talking all things West Brom.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's been a great time. Loved it.
So, we will be back next week with our usual show. We are hoping to have a Crystal Palace fan on next week to talk all things Palace and what they expect to see next season with potentially Roy Hodgson leaving the club if he doesn't get his contract renewed. So we'll see how that pans out. But in the meantime, thank you very much for listening, everyone, and we will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.